Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to the Hurricane Hub discussion for today, Tuesday, June 6th, 2023. Some stuff to go over today, particularly with Atlantic sea surface temperature anomalies. As you can tell by the title card, they're only getting warmer, and it is starting to become something unreal, I should say. But first, we should get to the National Hurricane Center homepage because we still have that area of interest that is out there in the northern Atlantic. And honestly, this doesn't really look like it's going to do much. It's very broad in nature. It's also very far northeast for development this time of year, and it does have a limited amount of time. Hence, given all these things together, the NHC is only forecasting a 10% chance for development in the next 48 hours and 7 days. So, really wouldn't be concerned about this becoming anything of tracking nature, at least in the tropical world. And the Pacific, too, also remaining quiet for the next 7 days. Nice and quiet. Of course, nothing to worry about there. But, as always, there's not always activity that's going to happen in only the eastern and Pacific and Atlantic basins. There are other worldwide basins out there as well, and I decided, why not take the time to take a look at what else is going out there. Of course, with my favorite website by now from the University of Wisconsin, the CIMSS Tropical Cyclones website, and there's actually some stuff going on right now. There's a cyclone in the Arabian Sea. I'm not even going to try pronouncing it because I know I'm going to butcher it badly, but this is a current cyclone right now, and I believe that means that this is a hurricane strength system. And of course, we have Tropical Storm Guchol in the Westpac, and both of these, as far as I'm concerned, at least from the little global model data that I saw, both of these are poised to become significant tropical cyclones as they develop over the next few days. So maybe we'll be able to get the global ace up. Regardless, there is still activity, of course, elsewhere in the globe. It's not just the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific that we see activity. So sometimes got to look elsewhere because, as I always say, there always is some sort of cyclone activity going on at some point in time, whether it's the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, or even the eastern or the western hemisphere. Right now, activity is in the eastern hemisphere. But the main talk of town, especially from the title card, the Atlantic just seems to get warmer, and it just keeps on getting impressive. I have something else to talk about in pertaining to sea surface temperature anomalies today, which I think you'll find very interesting. It's very short, but nonetheless, just to give you an idea of where we are right now. Basically, widespread 2 degrees Celsius anomalies starting to pop up across a good portion of the eastern MDR. Basically covering most of the eastern MDR, the central Atlantic, as well some spotty anomalies of 1-2 degrees Celsius above normal, and then even portions of the Caribbean too, seeing that as well. And then we have the Gulf of Mexico warmer, although the eastern Gulf is somewhat cooler right now, but still it's probably within the 26-27 degrees Celsius range because the Gulf is usually always warm, and especially by the time we get to September, this really shouldn't be concerned on whether or not the Gulf is warm or not, because by that time it always, no matter what, will be warm. And then we have our developing El Nino out here in the Pacific, and our cool look to the west coast of the United States and the Baja Peninsula. I went over it a little bit yesterday, and I'll go over it more in a later discussion. But for now, just really focusing on the Atlantic. Man, does it just keep on getting warmer. We've now reached 1.2 degrees Celsius above normal in the average Atlantic MDR as a whole, between 10 and 20 degrees north and 25 all the way to 85 degrees west. And over that entire area, we average out at 1.2 degrees Celsius above the long-term average. And it may not seem like a lot, especially if you're talking about just like a glass of water or something that is very small in nature, but we're talking about 65 degrees worth of longitude and 10 degrees worth of latitude, and you calculate that in square miles, and you also calculate that going deep into the ocean, because you got to remember sometimes, especially when we have a lot of heat, it not only is able to be very warm at the surface, but the warmer it is, the more it'll build deeper in the surface, and we could actually talk about that another time as well. But bottom line is that it may not seem a lot if you're talking about a small glass of water or something like that, but over a vast ocean, man, this is a lot of energy that is there, especially for the use for tropical cyclones, because we always talk about tropical cyclones being a almost like a balancing force of nature that is supposed to take heat out of the tropics and transfer it outward, because we need to have some sort of balancing mechanism in nature. Not everything has to be unstable, and not everything should be unstable. Otherwise, there'll be craziness everywhere. So we need some sort of balancing mechanism, and hurricanes are one of them. And when we have a lot of heat in the tropics or warm season temperatures like we do, as we do right now, hurricanes is a good way to take the energy out and kind of balance everything out, which is why we have hurricanes really in the first place. It's all very fascinating, but bottom line, this is generally a signal that you would look for, especially in Atlantic activity, for it to be quite an active season. And when you compare this to other years, I know we did some comparison yesterday. Let's see if I can try to close out of this ad. Nah, they're not gonna let me close. Whatever. But we did some comparison yesterday, and today on Storm 2K they also we're doing some comparison. Actually, this is from yesterday, too. But this is from Weenie Patrol. Funny name, but what this person did post is definitely not funny at all. It's very interesting. Take a look at this. This is 2023. This is the sea surface temperature anomaly map. 2023 minus 2017. What does that mean? Well, basically, what's in red, what's the warmer, above normal portion of the scale is where 2023 is warmer, and 2017, and where we are cooler where we're warmer in 2017 is where the anomalies are on the colder end of the scale there. And something you notice, well, take a look at the entire tropical Atlantic. Basically, we're much warmer overall in the entire Atlantic in comparison to 2017. Already one big season that we have analogs that were warmer than. Next is 2010 that this person compared to as well. And take a look at how much warmer especially we are in the Eastern Atlantic. And even take a look at the Caribbean too. We're warmer to some degree in 2010 this year. Of course, the Central and Western MDR, we're not really as warm there. 2010 especially, I noticed that, and 2005 as well, had a lot more of their warmth kind of focused over the Central and Western MDR. This year it's much more in the Eastern MDR, but especially by the Canary Current, look at that. We're well above 2010 in that aspect. And finally, we have 2005, another big year, and we're even warmer in the Central and Western Caribbean as well, and in the Eastern Atlantic too, especially right off Africa. All very interesting. And bottom line, what this is saying is this year is an anomalously warm year, and whatever happens is going to be very interesting. But if you remember yesterday, I did mention that we have a long ways to go. We're definitely on a journey, and as I did promise, I would show this graph today. This is a climatology map by the NHC, which is something very important to keep in the back of your mind, keep note of, because it's not like on June 1st, as soon as hurricane season comes, we're just going to have the Atlantic start becoming a hurricane machine where it spits out hurricanes, or at least not normally. Sometimes there's years like that, but usually it takes time for things to get going, and it takes time for the atmosphere to somewhat adjust and get more into producing storms. And how I do mention that, especially with activity in the Eastern Pacific and the Atlantic. I've always been mentioning, especially over the last 2 weeks, it's going to take time for the atmosphere to begin to adjust into hurricane season, and slowly as we get closer and closer towards the summer and fall, things will start becoming more favorable, and that's well reflected in the climatology graph. And I'd say we're right about here, right near the beginning of June. And when I mentioned that we have a long way to go, and we definitely have a journey to go from here on out till the end of the season, we definitely do, because look at how much more of the season we have, especially till we get to around mid to late August, right around here where we start having the very infamous rapid incline to the peak, which is roughly in early September. We're definitely ways away, so definitely time between now and then to get ready and be prepared for the hurricane season, because we have a long way out. But Once it comes, especially in the Atlantic, where we tend to have a rapid increase in development that occurs in early August, and then of course the peak lasts with us basically till around mid-October. That's when we start dying down, before we tend to have what people like to call a somewhat of a second mini peak in mid-October, which is roughly where we see the small increase here, and that's roughly around mid-October. And then after that, things begin to die down as we head into the latter portion of the year, closer to winter. And of course, things start becoming unfavorable in the Atlantic once again as the seasons change. But still, activity is coming, even if it's an El Nino or not. And of course, this climatology graph should definitely be something you keep in the back of your mind generally when it comes to tracking this hurricane season. And I also found it'll be very interesting to bring up, and we'll probably bring up again. I'll probably mention it again at some point later on in the season, of course, to refresh your mind. But in terms of climatology in the short term, not just, of course, long range for hurricane season, got to keep in mind the usual climatology points for this time of year is in the Western Atlantic. Nothing out in the Eastern Atlantic, although we've had years that we've seen development out here, although it's not really common. Once again, as I did mention, it's going to take time, but eventually we will see development out here. But right now, at least for the June 1st to June 10th time period, we don't. It's usually in the Western Atlantic, the Western Caribbean, and the Gulf of Mexico where things are most favorable. And of course, that's where models are beginning to hint at some activity. Did actually take a look at it briefly before I did this video today, but it's still long range, still in the making, and it's still something that we'll have to keep an eye on and see if it actually does come to become more of a concern, because right now it is long range, and it is, of course, when it's in the long range, it's really much more of an uncertainty and much more of a we'll have to see till it gets closer type of deal. Till when it does actually get closer, it's actually more of a certain type of deal and more something to look at. So not much concern for that right now, but generally you would look in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean for development, and seemingly that's where we're following right now, but we'll talk about that more another time. But I'm going to wrap it up for today. Really quick, short, and sweet discussion. I'm going to see what else we have, if there's anything that occurs tomorrow that's interesting that I find. If not, maybe I'll take tomorrow off, but keep in mind for an outlook tomorrow, and then maybe I might do a run through of my predictions for those that have not seen it. I did do my predictions last Thursday. It's in a live stream. Check it out. You'll be able to see it on the live tabs on my channel page. You'll be able to see the live stream there, and I do my predictions roughly around an hour in. So definitely check it out. But I'll have a video maybe kind of rerunning my predictions. Probably gonna do it tomorrow, if not sometime in the later the week. But other than that, not much else to talk about. Gonna get out. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay safe. Like, comment, and subscribers. The gamers or everybody trying to promote their YouTube channel would always say, but really it is helpful, especially in the long range. It would really mean a lot if you subscribe. But other than that, stay safe. Peace, love, and kindness to all, and we'll talk again soon. See ya.